Good evening, everybody. This is the June 6th, 2022 meeting of the Manascutney School District Board. And let's see, okay. I am calling this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. And has everybody on the board had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting? Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, wait, I'll just go down the line very quickly. Amy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Just as a reminder, if you're on a desktop or laptop, you can just press down I think it works on Google Meets.
What?
Press down the space bar and just see.
Unmute yourself.
That's how you can do it.
Yeah.
You can press the space bar and say aye and then let go of the space bar to Mike. So, or at least that's so you can do that on Zoom.
Or the person who takes our minutes, who made the motion and who seconded?
Okay, sorry. Amy made the motion and Rebecca seconded.
Okay.
For purposes of minutes. Okay, next comes.
Is David hit record?
Yep.
Okay.
And next is public participation. Give me 1 second. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. Comment period is not designed for discussion. Having said all of that, is there any member of the public who's with us this evening who would like to make a comment? Okay. Next, we have the principal's report.
I can share my screen if that's all right with everybody.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Before we do the principal's report, sorry. What?
No problem.
I'm sorry. I had I shared with a number of you a recording which was made by a parent, and I wanted to show it. It's a few minutes long, but I wanted to show it because I think it's pertinent to where all of our schools are headed, and I was hoping that maybe we could show it at the SU board too, or maybe a truncated. No? Did you watch the video that I sent?
I did.
Okay. David, would you mind making me a co-host so that I can show Misty's?
Yeah, actually, I don't think you have to be a co-host. I think you can just share. I think you can just share your screen and go to that tab.
Okay, let's see. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is it called? It is.
Hi, my name is Misty Booten, and I have 4 kiddos in the Windsor School. I recently was able to attend a parent discussion that was put on by Mike Nicholson, who has worked with our school on our strategic plan. There were parents and administrators there from all across the country who were either there, like myself, to learn, or those who have had some experience in self-directed learning. So Mike gave us all a really great description of what self-directed learning is, and I'm not even going to be able to give you nearly as much information as what he gave us, but it really is what it sounds like, which is self-directed learning, where kids kind of take control of their own education as far as what they're learning, what they want to learn, what inspires them. It kind of empowers the student to be able to really dive into the things that make them tick, the things that they're really passionate about. What makes them who they are, and what can you do to become better and more efficient at understanding who you are and what you want to be. And so rather than a teacher giving you A, B, we're getting to C, the student kind of chooses A, what am I passionate about? What do I want to learn about? B, how do I get there? What are the materials? What do I need to do that? And C, getting to that end result of understanding, learning more, and then kind of feeding that out to classmates, peers, and being kind of an educator themselves in these topics that they're passionate about. So I'm going to kind of just try to get through this as quick as I can without rambling, but I would say that the biggest takeaway I took was from speaking to a middle school teacher or middle school principal who has done self-directed learning in his school for 5 years. So we were able to do breakout groups, and we had a period of time of getting to talk to this principal who has quite a bit of knowledge on self-directed learning and implementation and how it rolled out within his school. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of what I learned, a little bit of what I took away from that conversation. He started the first year with 1 hour of self-directed learning in the classrooms. He said the hardest transition was with some teachers, which is completely understandable because, they're worried about their students. They want to make sure that they are meeting state standards. They don't want to lose important time to give these kids the education that they need. But they started with 1 hour a day, and he said that the kids loved it. They couldn't wait. They were like pushing through their work to get to that hour. And eventually what he saw were teachers were coming to him and saying, we need to do more of this during the day. We need more. The kids are so invested. The kids are excited. They're excited about learning. We need to do more of it. So they started to expand it out for more than an hour and started to build it into their whole entire curriculum. And I don't think that there's a blueprint. I don't think there's a book. It's so kind of new, and that was kind of one of the things we talked about within our group is it's new. There's no plan. There's no this is how you do it. This is how you make it work. It's kind of within the school and the atmosphere. And from what I took away from our conversation was that they just did it slowly and worked it into the curriculum and the way that their school was run. So during the conversation, I brought up the question that kind of comes through most parents' minds, and it was on my mind. And I said to him and to Mike, what about the kiddos who need structure? What about the kiddos who learn best with a teacher telling them you need to complete A, B, and C? What about the kiddos who struggle to find A, B, and C on their own? And there was no definitive answer. And I was not the only parent that asked that question, but there was no definitive answer to that. What I took away from the principal, especially who was kind of telling us about this, was that there are kids who are already invested in education, and then there are kids who are not. And the kids who are not are checking out. They're checked out. They're not learning. They're just there. There's multiple reasons that's happening. One, they already know the curriculum and they're bored. 2, there's things happening outside of themselves where they're just not capable of focusing in to just someone talking. So anyway, So he said, what I'm seeing in my school is more participation, more excitement about education, more kids involved, more kids wanting to participate in classroom activities, more kids wanting to do their work. There's no one shoe that's going to fit everybody, but that he's seen the positives outweigh the negatives in all aspects of what he has seen within his school. And he's super excited. And you can tell when you talk to him, he's very excited about this. So I think I'm going to just share one story. I can't go on too long, but I could go on. I could, but I'm not going to. But I do want to just tell you one of the things, my biggest takeaway from this conversation with this principal was, I told him a story about my daughter. He's a middle school principal. I thought it was really a unique opportunity. And I said, I have a 13-year-old, I have a middle schooler. I find her to be self-motivated. She's good at school. She likes school. Well, she's 13. She'll tell you she doesn't like school, but she likes school. And I said, there was a week or two where she would just come home. And she would be I don't know. I was like, is she depressed? Like, what's going on? She's grumpy and just tired. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like, is something happening at school? And she's like, yeah. She was like, I'm not doing good in science right now. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm not getting my work done on time. We're doing atoms. I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm behind on my work. And, and she's a kiddo who likes to get her work in on time. She really does. She likes to be a good student. And you could just see her stressed, right? I could see it. And I thought, okay, well, I can help you with atoms. No. I can't help her with atoms. Oh my goodness, I haven't done that in so long. So I told my husband, I'm like, we're gonna have to meet with the teacher. I don't know what to do. I can't help her with atoms. Like, I mean, I can kind of remember them, but I haven't done atoms. Like, I know basics, but I don't know what they're learning. I don't know how to help her with this. So parent-teacher conferences were coming up. Perfect time to talk to the teacher. And we said to her, teacher, is there another way you can teach this to her? Is there another avenue she can take to learn this? And her teacher said, well, what do you mean? She understands it. And I'm like, she says she doesn't. She says she's behind on her work. She doesn't understand it. So he pulls out her folder and he pulls out some tests she had done, some assignments. And he said, she's doing it perfectly. She just doesn't enjoy it. She's not invested in it. And I think it's holding her back. I think that this lesson on atoms had held her back. She didn't like it. She didn't enjoy it, but she knew it. She understood it. And the teacher told me she gets it. She's just not doing her work on time. And I thought, geez, okay, well, that's crazy, but all right, well, we'll help her get through this. And so I said to this principal, I said, in instances like that, what would you think? Does it help the student? And he said, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what this is. So you can't not teach kids atoms. They still have to learn atoms. And if they don't like atoms, then they sit down with the teacher and they can go over it for 10 minutes and they have to show the teacher that they know atoms. They understand the basics of atoms. And then they move on to the things that they enjoy doing. They don't have to spend 1 or 2 weeks learning about atoms. They have to show that they can understand atoms, that they understand the basics and they understand the core fundamentals of atoms. Then they move on. They don't have to sit through the next 2 weeks of atoms unless you want to. If you want to choose to learn more about atoms and you're pursuing atoms and that's something you're going to do in the future, then you take atoms as your topic and you learn more about atoms and that teacher can help guide you through it. So anyway, I think that was the biggest thing I took away from that conversation with that principal was his school gives kids the opportunity to show that they know atoms and then move on to the things that they aspire to be, the things that really make them tick, the things they want to learn. And I am hopeful for the future of education being there, because I do find that we spend a lot of time teaching kids things that they may not utilize in the future or that they are not passionate about. So we give kids the opportunity to learn the things they need to know, but then they move on to the things that really make them excited to be at school, to learn, to be them, to aspire to be who they are and what they're going to be in the future. So that conversation, I think, is really my biggest takeaway. I don't have enough knowledge to be like, this is how they did it. They had a book and they followed a plan and they made it work, and it doesn't work that way. I think it's too new. What I took away from the principal is, it's a new concept. There's no written out guide. It's just finding ways to work it into your curriculum, into your school, and growing it. And you don't just, you kind of dip your toes in the pool and then you get in slowly. You don't just dive in. So anyway, I don't know if this is helpful. I hope it's insightful in some ways. It's what I took away from it. I think that it's a great opportunity for schools to explore this option, to talk about it more. Anyway, I hope this helped. All right, bye.
So thank you for hearing Misty. I think it was really generous of her to put that video together. She was a little bit nervous about talking to groups of people, and I suggested that would be a good alternative. So so that's it.
Oh,
Thank you, Misty.
I think it's good that a parent and community member is understanding and sharing her experience with that, because we, as a board, have been talking about it since 2013 with Act 77 and flexible pathways. And it has been really challenging because I went to school where you sat in a desk in a row. Sometimes really innovative teacher had you sitting in a circle, but it was mostly the teacher standing, telling, and students taking it all in, being fed. And when my kids, so Act 77 was coming into power, becoming part of every school district in the state of Vermont, being implemented, yes. And I would talk to my kids about it and they would say, "Oh, Mom, really? I just want to go to school." I said, "Well, you need to take a little bit more initiative." And that's what we want kids to do, to, like Misty was saying, not everyone wants to spend 2 or 3 weeks on atoms, but there are also very innovative ways that kids can take what they understand about atoms and create something else to show. So yeah, it's all very exciting. Education is so more exciting than when I was sitting in the back of the class. Taking it all in, but
When we had the SU forum the other night, the Act 77 and flexible pathways came up. And so I thought that Missy talking about that experience would have dovetailed really nicely. So I dropped her a note saying, you have to find a way to fit in your description. So, okay, thank you. And again, thank you, Misty. Oh, you're here. Okay, we are going to move to the principal's report.
I can start sharing. This is our June 2022. And just so you guys know, May into June tends to be really busy for us. So just bear with us. We're going to talk a little bit about highlights from each school as we could remember them in the last minute. And our student celebrations as we can pull out of our brains in this time. So at Oliver Bridge, here's some things I've done in the last month. We've done our full school concert. Unfortunately, it's the first time I haven't had a recording for it. Something malfunctioned with our system, so that's a big bummer. But we're going to see if we can find some recordings. We had a wonderful concert. We dedicated it to our heroes who have helped us navigate through COVID times, particularly those in the both the physical health world and the mental health world. We invited people from MASD to come join us from the hospital, and they sent a rep. Understandably, they're busy too, so they couldn't all come, but they appreciated the just the acknowledgement that it's been really hard, and they've done incredible work, including our nurses, in this process. Our artists and residents youth feast that we had been planning did not happen yet last week, just unfortunate circumstances. But we do have this week an artists and residents for photography, and if you're interested, you can click on that link and it takes you to what they're doing, which is the World Story Exchange. Instead. Which is a pretty cool process where they actually teach kids a lot about photography. And this couple works all over the world. They happen to call Vermont home, so lucky us. Then we did our Penny Wars, which we raised over $400 for our student trip. It was pretty fun. And then kindergarten screening took place in both of our schools. SFAC's completed in both of our schools, I believe. Robotics in 3 through 6. So we've been very fortunate this year to have as our librarian, the same librarian that's here at Windsor. And she's been phenomenal, bringing just a whole lot of energy and ideas. And she has ended this year with the students in the upper grades actually programming some things that the kids were just pretty tickled pink to be able to see their work actually create a robot move. We're working on our school gardens. We've done book buddies with community members, which has been just wonderful having the community members out and about around the school, sometimes in the school, just connecting with our students. And we're hoping to expand that again next year. And there's a picture up there in the top corner of the kids making book bags. So learning how to sew and create book bags process. And we've done mix-up days, which is where the kids are going into their new classroom environment just to start getting ready for next year. We still have our senior breakfast upcoming tomorrow morning. We're super excited to have our graduating seniors come back to join us. Most of them will be able to join us. The sixth graders will be cooking them breakfast and serving them. So that will be fantastic to see them just back in the building and see what they're up to. Then we're going to spend our day at the mountain for most of the day tomorrow. We go right up to Mount Scottney. And then our class trip that you guys approved will be on Thursday into Boston. Our 5th and 6th grade canoe trip will be on Friday down the Connecticut River, and graduation next week. And I'm sure there's a ton more that's up and coming and a ton more that we've done, but this is what I got for you today. And I'm going to pass it off to Kate or Colleen.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So our kindergarten through 4th grade happenings, our registration is completed today. We finished our makeups of our K screenings. We have 19 students registered. In order to have some comparable numbers, we're working on doing some consolidating of some of our classrooms. We have a K class. We are looking at a K1 multi-grade classroom and 2 first grade classes at this time. Across the whole building, we're looking at interventionist certified teachers being interventionists on our teams, on our elementary, middle school, and high school teams. So right now we're looking at 2 second grades, 2 third grades, and 3 fourth grades. We'd like to have 3 fourth grades. We have 2 this year, but we have a bubble class in the 3rd grade. So those are things we're still doing some hirings and working out those numbers, but that's our preliminary look at it at this moment. We had our first mountain day today, our first one since COVID hit. So we didn't have one in 2020. Grade 3 participated in our community gardens at the fairgrounds. So that's exciting. If you drive by 44 and see the gardens right there, they've been working on them right at the edge of near the edge of the road at the fairgrounds. You could see those growing, as well as in our own parking lot next to the school, our gardens right next to the school. Our 5th through 8th grade, they've been working on interviewing some guest authors. They also had a hike at Mount Escutney. The 5th and 6th grade were a part of the hike today, and Mount Tom was our 7th and 8th grade group last week. They're also working on our community garden. June 13th is our at 6 p.m. is our 8th grade passages ceremony, the step up ceremony for our 8th graders to high school. Next year, we're looking at a 2-person 5th grade team and a 7-person middle school team with interventionists on that team. Windsor Happenings, at the high school, we have our senior night. This is a busy senior week. Senior night is Wednesday night. June 9th is our underclassmen awards. We're having a staff gathering on Thursday as well. We have seniors, a new tradition. It's not really new, but it's about 5 years old, maybe 6. Our seniors walk through the halls, beginning in kindergarten, and walk through the whole building, and all the students come out into the hall and high five them as they walk through in their gowns when they get ready to go to their graduation rehearsal. Graduation is Friday night at 7 p.m. We have the Alumni Parade coming up, featuring our students on Saturday. June 14th, we are having our trauma team host some closure meetings for our staff. Our May intensives, with the help of Bridget Ferriel, our MTSS coordinator, helped make all of those. Sorry, I said May intensives. I meant to say SBAC makeups. The May intensives was a success, organized by chemistry teacher Jeff Beachy. Great success. We also just finished all of the makeups with MTSS coordinator Bridget Ferriel's support. We have our Hartford Tech students next year. We have 5 sophomores, 32 juniors, 22 seniors. And we did do a small ceremony at school raising the Ukraine flag that was organized and supported with the help of our Student Social Justice Committee and Mr. Liam Atwood, who helped organize that, as well as some of our student council members. I believe Hudson Rainey and Ms. Engwall also were helping with that. The last one was credit recovery. We have credit recovery happening this summer, and orientation for our incoming freshmen happening this summer. Thanks, Jen. You asked us to share a little bit about people who were leaving and reasons why. This was just pretty general. We have 3 teachers that we know of that are leaving, who are taking positions, 2 elementary and 1 high school, all full-time teachers. They were all taking positions closer to their homes or due to family moves and other jobs. I know Katie had some that she might share, with some positions also to be filled in special education. But I think Elizabeth asked us why people were leaving, and there have been some really lovely, favorable resignation letters that I'm sure Dr. Baker, once he gets them, can share some of that generally about how people felt about their time here. But we've had some really great responses, and the 3 that I mentioned here are leaving because of family and shorter commutes. And then this is something we shared with you before. Our high school, our seniors, some of their locations that they're leaving to go to their next step in their journey toward. And if once the year is over, I can add to that if there are more changes after graduation that I can share with all of you.
Katie, I see your hand.
I just wanted to chime in. What Colleen set me up for is we also have 3 staff members resigning teacher positions, and also for very similar reasons. Moving closer to home. We actually had some really good conversations with them, and the resignation notes were wonderfully appropriate. But moving closer to home, taking positions closer, seems to be the theme for our staff, as well as also one staff person just trying to contemplate what else they might like to do. And we had very positive comments and some really good feedback on ways we continue to want to grow as well. So, and that's, it just happens to be Windsor School is the only place right now that I have professional staff resigning. And one of them actually has a 1-year traveler, so they're kind of on a 1-year contract anyway.
Rebecca, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. Colleen, last year we talked a little bit about trying to get information on those students who have graduated and where they're at. And I wonder if there was any follow-up to that. And I wonder if that is something that maybe if it didn't happen this year, maybe we can consider trying to put something in place for next year.
Yes, I do recall you did ask me that, and we did have that discussion with the school counselors, and I don't believe there was, I could be wrong, but there might have been a survey sent out to some of our recent graduates, but I could definitely do some collecting on the last 2 years' classes for sure. Thank you for the reminder, Rebecca. Sorry about that.
And Nancy, I see your hand.
Yes, Colleen, I wondered how many of the students were going on to college or 2-year programs for associate degree.
I don't know that off the top of my head. I think all the ones that were listed on that last page, let me just take a quick peek. I think on the list that we shared, other than don't have the specifics on all the gap years in the workforce and other employments through internships, but of all the ones listed on the left, I think all but one are 4-year programs, but there are some students who or more than one student are going to some of these institutions. But I think there's only one that is not a 4-year program. But I can get that information for you too, Nancy. How many are 2-year and how many are 4-year programs?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca, I see your hand.
Thank you. I think UNH does have a 2-year program, and also I think and University of Southern Maine may have a 2-year component. I don't know about the others.
I think they do have them. I think the students who are going there are planning on doing 4-year programs.
I also have a question, Colleen. You mentioned, where is it? June 14th closure meetings?
Yeah, we have been talking with our trauma champion team, and they'd like to kind of have a last chance to meet with our staff just to talk about processing all the work we've done with David Melnick, just kind of processing our work together. And and the healing that we all went through this pandemic for the last 2 years together. And just trying to talk through that prior to leaving and going our separate ways for independent summer relaxation, but to do a little bit more collective discussion and processing. Jen might be able to talk a little bit more about that as the trauma champions have discussed that.
Yeah, so it's continuing our work with Dave Milnick, in which they're talking about if we don't bring closure to the year, that many people may go into the summer not really moving forward and healing, but holding on to just things that they don't feel sat right with them this year, for all kinds of reasons. So the first few steps are talking about acting as like a firefighter, thinking about when you're on the ground and fighting the fire, you have an eye level view. But then if you happen to be one of those people who get to go up to the helicopter, you then get to see how much is actually contained versus the flames that are right in front of you. So a lot of it is talking about what's your eye level view, what have you had to overcome this year, and what are you hopeful for? How did you grow? And then looking at the sort of bird's eye view or the helicopter view is really thinking about all the things we have done really well, just to kind of take that step backwards so that we can appreciate the work that has been done. And then the next step is really thinking about what do we need moving forward so that collectively we are a more well community than if we don't take the time to do this relational work.
What a great idea. Rebecca, I see your hand.
You took it right out of my brain, Elizabeth. I think that's an awesome idea. I think it's so important also to help the staff be able to not only acknowledge what has happened over the last year and a half, but look at ways that they took care of themselves to keep themselves sane. And hopefully we'll continue to do that over the summer and restore themselves so that when they come back, they're ready for the next years. I think that's a great idea, though.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for our principals? Hearing none. Thank you very much, principals.
You're welcome.
Good luck with the end of the year and all of the various ceremonies and passages. Rebecca?
I do just have one more question for Friday is graduation at the high school. And is that going to be indoors? And is that going to be limited to a number of people? And or are there plans to have it outdoors?
The plan is for it to be outdoors, Rebecca. We usually make our rain decision before noon on Friday. And we are going to keep happy thoughts that we've had many beautiful Friday evenings in June for many years. And that is the hope. And with it being outdoors, it is unlimited. Our students have 8 tickets reserved seating for their families, but the community comes out with their camp chairs and relaxes and enjoys the beautiful night.
Okay, next is the superintendent's report.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. Mine is never quite as exciting. And I don't have all those beautiful kid pictures that get put into these other reports. But let me try this and just stay with me. Okay, so I'll just kind of go through it. There's a lot of informational piece here. We also, lately, we've been linking the video and linking these reports in the minutes so that if people miss things, they can certainly go back. So the updates, really, we just talked about this, graduation season. You know, it's a hopeful season. It's my favorite season. I get to travel around to all the buildings and participate in the graduation ceremonies, considered commencement activities, right? Commencement, certainly the derivative being more about the beginning. And it's hopeful to watch our young people get ready to leave those stages and move on to the next chapter of their life, whether it's the sixth graders at Albert Bridge moving on to Windsor, or whether it's an eighth grader at Weathersfield or Heartland moving on to a variety of high schools, or the seniors at Windsor are moving out into their next phase. So I would concur with what Kate and Colleen said and what Rebecca asked. You know, the board has always been a big part of graduation at Windsor. Please, you know, show up, be there. We have special seating for school board members in the front of that, in the front. So just come on and join us. It's a great evening event. Our last day of school is June 17th, and I still think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think there is a parent group that's trying to organize an SU 7th and 8th grade dance at the rec center. Is that still on, Kate and Colleen? Are they still working on that? Do you know?
Misty?
has a hand up.
Misty?
Yes, they are actually still planning that, and it's in full swing. So I think there's going to be a pretty good turnout, actually. So we're excited.
That's great. It's a great way for our 7th and 8th graders to end the year and to get together like that. So thanks to that group that's really working hard on that. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Misty, I know it's at Windsor Rec. What time does it start? Do you know? Misty, are you there?
I am sorry. I believe it's starting at 7, but I would have to make sure I'm correct on that. Let me pull up my flyer real quick.
Yeah,
My daughter's yelling, "Hi, Mr. Champ." I'm sorry.
June 17th, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
6 o'clock, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Okay, equity proposals are back. We had the 4 proposals. We're partnering with Springfield. We did meet with the screening team. We had several members from Springfield and several members from Windsor Southeast. We sat down, we reviewed the proposals. We had a little 5-step rubric that we used to do the initial scoring. We were able to quickly eliminate 2 of the vendors. We're down to 2 vendors now that are going to come in for final interviews on June 21st. We're going to be looking at some proposals that they've written for other districts. So we'll look at the quality of their work, and then we'll either bring 1 or 2 of them to the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board, and Springfield will bring them to the Springfield School District Board to try to get approval of a vendor. There was a lot of enthusiasm in the group, both Springfield and Windsor Southeast, around getting this started as quickly as we could and starting the audit over the summer, if we could, finishing it up in the fall. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic about that. Christine's a part of that team, was part of that vetting process. And so I think that ball will get carried across the line here within the next couple of weeks. And again, at the end, I'll answer any questions anybody has. The Anti-Racism Task Force had their last meeting for the school year. I think it was last week or late the week before. And they're going to try to find some concentrated time to meet either this summer or certainly in the early fall to prioritize the action steps, which are still in somewhat of a draft form, but there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm on that team. And also, one of the things that got shared out at this group meeting, and some of you are part of this team, is that it seems like for a variety of reasons, the anti-racism work is going slowly, and we're kind of plodding along, and we're not moving as quickly as certainly we would like to move. And I'm going to address that on the next slide here in a minute. But certainly the idea of keeping that team going. Christine's part of that team as the newly hired interim. And I'm sure that her passion for this work will also continue to speed this up a little bit. And that leads to the next bullet here. One of the things Christine wanted to do, Mary Gannon, as you know, is working with our boards. We have our next meeting on June 15th. It's one of the last in a series of 3, but it won't be our last meeting with Mary. Remember, there were 3 things that she was hired to do. This kind of board professional development, organize some community forums in the fall, and most importantly, and Christine noted this, is help us put that DEI position together. So Christine is reaching out to Mary Gannon. She may have already. I know Christine's in that room. So if you want to speak to this, Christine, you certainly can. But Christine really wanted to move forward on that DEI position and kind of get it on an escalated timeline, a faster timeline, because we need this position to coordinate this ongoing work and to pay attention to those timelines and dates, because what happens is it's sort of like that circus act where you're spinning plates and you get that last plate spinning and then you look down the end and that the plate way down the end is starting to slow down again. You run down there. Somebody needs to be dedicated to this work. And Christine, I don't know if you wanted to make any comments about that, but I know there was some level of frustration with the anti-racism task force, but also some level of optimism that we are continuing to move. We've accomplished a lot, and we've got a lot more to do. Did you want to make a comment, Christine?
I just thought it might be helpful to have somebody in place to help with the equity audit when we were looking at the proposals. There's a lot of work involved in doing those audits, and this person could help lead that work and then would be familiar and ready to go on implementing, what comes out of those equity audits. So I didn't email her yet, David. I emailed you back to make sure that was part of her scope of work, but I will email her to ask if she has some job descriptions to help us really get that in place quickly so that we can, with the board's approval, post that position. I'd like to post it this summer. Sooner the better.
That's good. And I know that Mary helped. I think she helped Hartford put their job description together, and she's helped a bunch of districts put their jobs. So I'm sure she's got templates. She's got some outlines that we could easily, and we could vet those with the task force, or we could vet those with the boards and get that work moving. So yeah.
So that's on my right away to-do list.
Excellent.
We had our first board forum on June 2nd, and that was at 5:30 in the Windsor, at Windsor, followed by a barbecue. Craig Locarno, our food service person, certainly has been barbecued out the last couple of weeks. I think all of our buildings had barbecues this week, including that forum barbecue. While the attendance was spotty, the bottom line is, I think there was a pretty rich discussion about our strategic plan. The meeting was recorded. We had a little bit of a technical glitch with Facebook Live, so we weren't able to stream it live. But we will get, as soon as we get that recording put together, we'll get that out on our website, and we'll notify folks that it is there, because Nikki did a great job, the Heartland board chair, of outlining the strategic plan. She put those slides together, and Brittany did a great job with some able assistance from Patty and Angie of putting that video together, which had some student voice and staff voice around what it means to do somewhat of what Misty talked about, which is essentially some of that self-directed learning piece, which is part of our strategic plans. So I want to thank Davis and Windsor on Air and all of the people that were there that night. And I don't know if anybody else wanted to make comments. Many of you were there about that forum. I know the intent is to do more of them in the fall, and probably we'll be able to match those up with our equity and anti-racism work. I think that could very easily be one of our next ones. I can't see names, but Elizabeth, you can, if people want to weigh in.
To clarify, that was a supervisory union board forum.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct. First SU board forum. Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth.
I don't know whose hand should be answered first because I just dismissed that advisor. Rebecca Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I do want to comment on the fact that Nikki did a very nice job of presenting the strategic plan and the videos of the teachers, the staff, the children. They were great, and I just wondered if that also that particular recording can be used to maybe reach out to other community businesses. I mean, you know, I thought about it later and I said, this would be great to share with the Rotary and try and get some feedback. I don't know how we would even do something like that, but I just thought it's just a really good way of presenting what is it that we're doing, what's going on in the schools and the direction that the schools are headed.
Good point.
Thank you, Rebecca. Davis and then Misty.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how it went. I know it being as busy as it is right now, a lot of parents weren't able to attend, but just seeing the quality of discussion that was able to happen. I think that having these events where we're not conducting a business meeting and we can really deep focus on a single topic and really let our our parents dig into this and have some really insightful discourse about things as important as how we're educating our community's youth and how our strategic plan is unfolding and will unfold. I was so impressed with how it went. And also just one small update. I got an email from Paula and it looks like tomorrow that video is going to be out. So keep a lookout for that, and that'll go out on Vimeo and Facebook.
Thanks, Davis.
Misty?
Yeah, thanks. I'm kind of just going to piggyback off what Davis said. I know there was a lot of parents who were hopeful to attend. There were a lot of sporting events that were conflicting with that date. And then I do know that there were parents kind of waiting for the live to spark up, and it just didn't. So there are parents eager and waiting for that video. So I'll definitely be looking for that tomorrow, and I'll share it with everybody I know that was waiting to see that meeting. Thank you.
No, that's great. And I know, Misty, you've been part of that, that very interested parent group. So again, if I get my hands on that tomorrow, Davis or Paula, if you want to just let Paula know, send it to me and I can get it out to Misty because she can share it with her network of parents too. That would be great. Are there any other hands up?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we will do that. Anyone else with a hand up, Elizabeth? Are we good to keep going?
We're good to keep going. I just wanted to thank Davis again for all of that hard work that went into that,
Yeah.
and everybody else who pitched in. That was very, very well done. It was our practice waffle.
It was our practice, exactly. It was a good way and an important way to figure out how to do that. And again, that was SU wide. So thanks for that clarification, Elizabeth. Transition work with Christine Bourne. I guess I should have spelled her name right, but it's Bourne. But the work with Christine is going well. Christine was appointed our interim, as we've been announcing to everybody that will listen to us. Christine will take the reins on July 1st. We've already met for 2 almost full days. I'm sharing all kinds of files with her and information with her. And we're going to meet several more times before the end of the year. There's just, as Christine knows, as you all know, as I've learned in my experience, there's a lot to this job and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that it kind of keeps the work moving. And Christine's good, certainly at multitasking. She's proven that. And so she's been a great, a great ally over the years for the last 5 years, and has done incredible work at Heartland. So I know she'll do a great job in that transition. Transition work with a new principal, Sergio Simonovic, is underway. Sergio is going to join us July 1. He'll be joining Jennifer and Colleen and Kate, housed at the Windsor building. Sergio comes to us and we met him, I think, at the last meeting, from Kernhatton. He's been the principal of the day school down there for 5 years. But we've already had a couple of meetings. We've met 2 times with Kate, Colleen, and Jennifer and Sergio, and we plan to meet again on Wednesday, just kind of doing some of that same kind of transitional work as we move forward. I think he's going to be a great addition to that team. Transportation for FY 22-23. This came up at our last Mount Scottney board meeting. That's the transportation between Albert Bridge and Windsor, and working with the bus company. Larry, as our director of operations, has been working hard on this. Larry, I don't know if you want to give a quick update. You think we might be able to do this without securing a new bus?
So the first on the bullet with transition work with Christine. Next week, Christine's also going to meet, the week after next. Christine's going to meet with all the department heads in my group at the finance and operations. So that's transition work includes that too. So I'm pleased to announce I've talked with Mike and the principals. It's not 30, 35 students. It's 15 to 20, we think. And we're going to set up to do in the PM. He's talked to both drivers, and they're very confident they can do it. They're going to do what they do in the AM. They're going to meet at the mountain and swap buses and then bring them to their house, or where their pickup location was. It might not be their house. It might, depending on the road. But it's going to be the same as where they got picked up in the AM. So we're going to do that. We're going to try that out and see how it goes. And I want to thank the principals and Mike, and I'll keep an eye on it, especially in the fall, and make sure that goes off without a hitch. Also, while we're on the subject of transportation, Katie and Christine and I are going to meet in a week or so and talk about transportation needs for next year, including Transition K. Well, I guess it's Mount Scottney meeting. I guess it includes Mount Scottney. And the ACE program.
And algebra.
And Algebra 1. There's a lot of Algebra 1 kids at Heartland next year.
Yeah. And it's my understanding that, and if anybody has any questions for Larry, feel free, but mentioning Algebra 1, I didn't put it in my report, but I think we've got a pretty healthy number of 8th graders who want to take that accelerated Algebra 1 class at Windsor.
With 27 as of last week.
27 as of last week.
Which means we'd have to run 2 sections if everyone accepts.
That's amazing. So we'll open up another section, same thing, first block. But I think that says a lot about the math, certainly the math prowess of our 7th graders. It's a good class, and we are going to stretch as many of them as we can into that high school transcripted Algebra 1 class. So that's good news. I hope that bodes well for the future. Each year the numbers have increased, but when I heard that number, that sounded like an incredible feat on the part of all those who are planning this whole Algebra 1. And then last but not least, this is my last MASD meeting, Mount Scottney meeting. I just want to thank this board. This is a phenomenal board. You proved yourself through the Act 46 process. It's amazing how well you all work together. I think for the viewing public, other than those who know you, I don't think you'd know who was from Windsor and who was from West Windsor, because you all support the kids equally, and you're committed to making the Mount Scottney School District the best that it can be. So I just wanted to thank you all for those years of support, and and of course, wish you well as we move forward. So that's it, unless there are any questions.
Rebecca has her hand raised. David?
David, was that with the Algebra 1, is that 27 incoming 8th graders requesting Algebra 1 for the 9th grade?
Yeah, and remember, that's 8th graders who will be taking this 9th grade algebra class, and that's made up of Heartland students, Weathersfield students, and Windsor 8th graders. We were always able to accelerate the Windsor 8th graders, but by adding on Weathersfield and Heartland and providing that transportation, that's why that number just continues to grow.
That's great. And I just want to make note that most of your students who are going to be entering a 4-year college should start taking Algebra 1 in the 9th grade. So it's really great that we are offering that to our incoming 9th graders.
Yeah, that's great. And we often say to ourselves as administrators, and I think the gates to college are thank God in some ways easing up a little bit. I know many of the colleges didn't even request SAT scores this year. It's sort of like that blind application process, right? I mean, it's tough to judge a child by one test, but I do know that there are still requirements at the college level. And one of those requirements, aside from a foreign language, is Algebra 1. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we could get as many of our kids on that algebra track as possible. And it seems like we're making some progress.
Colleen, I see your hand raised.
I just wanted to clarify for Rebecca that 27 will be 8th graders next year.
Right. They'll be 8th graders next year from those 3 schools.
I think Misty has a question.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to call on Amy first because she just asked to be acknowledged, and then Misty.
Just another comment on the 8th graders being able to take Algebra 1. Once they take that, they're early in the math process, and it frees up or can freeze up or open up, their junior and senior years for more flexible pathway opportunities in math, to go to Dartmouth perhaps, or any of the area colleges, or to do internships.
Excellent, thank you. Misty, I see your hand. Misty, are you here? Misty, I see your hand raised. All right, we're going to come back to Misty. We skipped right over the part where this is David's last meeting with us. And thank you, David, for not only being with us as separate boards, but also helping to usher us into through that Act 46 process, which, as we know, was really hard. But now look where we are. Mm-hmm. We think we're doing all right, and so thank you for helping us through that, and thank you for your many years of service to education in general, to all of our children, to always putting children first, as we often say about you. And we wish you best of luck in Orange East?
Orange South, or Orleans Southwest.
Southwest, oh, okay.
That's it. Orange, Orleans, Washington, Wyndham, Windsor.
Yeah. Windsor,
I'm sorry. What's that?
No, I'm just.
Orleans Southwest, yeah. Although Orange East was also open, so.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That would have been almost the same commute.
I thought I read something about Orleans, and that I convinced myself that
It was one of the Orleans.
it was one
Yeah,
of the Orleans.
there's a bunch of Orleans, Southwest, Southeast, yeah. If you can keep track of that, good luck.
Okay, let's keep moving here. Before we move to the discussion part, can I ask what the status of the van is?
Yeah, it's being ordered.
It's being ordered,
It hasn't been delivered.
but it hasn't been paid for?
We're not gonna pay for it until it's delivered.
Okay, but it's in
process.
It's in process,
Yeah,
okay.
we're working on, we have a couple, and we have the prices and we have the quotes, and Jim is picking it out, and we're gonna make sure it can be maintained locally. And so I don't wanna put we anticipate.
That's
We don't expect to be waiting 6 months.
when we come back in July, can you give us an update on the maintenance of our schools, including our playgrounds, or ask Jim?
I did a
to address
maintenance
that?
update in the April meeting.
I was just looking at some of the things in the schoolyards, and I wondered whether there's a maintenance schedule for the schoolyards.
Yeah, every year we have to put the wood chips, I believe. We have to spend an insane amount of money yeah, so you mean, is that what you're talking about?
Well, I
Because
noticed
right
that
now, they're probably a little ragged, I assume, but.
at Albert Bridge, there is a broken swing, and it is the only playground that we have in West Windsor.
Yeah.
And so I wondered whether that was, and it's a baby swing.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether that was something that might be
I can definitely look at
addressed
that.
before the summer.
Yeah, I can definitely look at that and let you know.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
baby swing in Windsor, in West
Baby
Windsor.
swing.
Albert Bridge.
Okay. Next is, what's that?
I didn't bring my cookie. I got it. Yeah.
You want me to text it to you?
No, I got it.
The middle school model is next.
So I'll just put in the chat the middle level overview. Quite frankly, what I would like to do, I mean, Christine and I met with the middle level task force last week. Now that document is in the chat now. Again, this is still a little bit of a work in progress. I do want to get into more of the detail of this with Christine at our supervisory union board meeting, because it does impact all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders across the supervisory union. And it also, as you'll see when you get to the timeline in that report, it's a very brief report. It's not a difficult read, but it will outline sort of a 3-year timeline. And of course, pertinent to this board in that timeline is the need to have some discussion about this, the 6, 7, and 8 configuration, and especially as it relates to Albert Bridge being the only school in our supervisory union that terminates at grade 6. So we don't have a 7 and 8 necessarily to team up with. So I think that community, and Christine's well aware of this, we talked about it with the task force. We've talked about it with Jennifer. This board and this community is going to have to, I think next fall, have some conversations with parents, with the community about how they want to integrate into this middle level program. I think Bill was right in his statement a couple of months ago. Middle school philosophy is just that. It's a concept. It's a philosophy embedded in this plan. It's what we've been looking at all week. It's part of what we've been doing with Mike Nicholson and what Misty participated in, because a lot of the pilot programs in self-directed learning start at the middle level, because that's where students seem most eager to get engaged in student voice, student choice, what's sometimes called negotiated curriculum, integrated curriculum, thematic curriculum. And I think our teams have been working on that this year, and you'll see it's embedded in that plan. But again, it's going to be a little bit of a slow process as we roll it out, because what we want to do is we want to go slow for the sake mostly of those sixth graders and the integration of those sixth graders into middle level activities, maybe starting with things like field trips, assemblies, advisories, and having most of the instructional work still happen in sort of a team configuration at the sixth grade level. So I think that does two things. First of all, it doesn't impact Albert Bridge next year as much as we originally thought it could or might, because we are going to keep that sixth grade somewhat separate next year. But it also gives us some time to have those community conversations and discussions about that kind of grade configuration at Albert Bridge or in Mount Escutney. So again, Christine and I will certainly take any questions you might have about that little overview or that report. But again, we could also save some time tonight, because we are going to review it in a little more depth at the SU meeting, because it does take into account our middle schools across the SU.
David, what does, oops, shoot.
Sorry, I apologize. What does VAMLE stand for?
Yeah, VAMLE is the Vermont Association of Middle Level Educators, and it's a very active organization, and they put on institutes and residencies and workshops all the time, including the big middle level institute, which happens, we've got a few people going to that institute I believe it's in June. We'd like to see the entire middle level team next year go to that institute. But Vermont was one of the leaders probably as much as 20 years ago in middle level education. So yeah, so that's VAMLE.
My other question is, did you contact the Tarrant Institute at UVM about, because that's precisely what they do, is transition from junior high to middle school models?
Yes, I've reached out to them. To be perfectly transparent, we haven't had a face-to-face meeting yet, but I know that's what they do. I know they are very connected to middle level programming, and actually I think there's at least one person from VAMLE that sits on that Tarrant board, but yeah, they are definitely on our radar in terms of the need for any consultation as we move along. The resources are rich. I don't think we need a lot of. The other thing Tarrant will do too is, they've also got resources in terms of grants. I don't think initially we're going to need a ton of money to make this work. I think it was much more around structural and organizational changes and building out the staff component. We will need, and you're going to hear more of this through the budget season, I think we need a few more dedicated unified arts, humanities, arts, especially arts people to be able to work, because a lot of times when it's, for example, in Windsor, where you're trying to spread art teachers and PE teachers across the K-12 continuum, especially now that we're reaching 600 students, K-12, we might even go over 600 next year, although we have a small K coming in. One of the things the task force has talked about is, can we beef up the arts? Also, drama, theater, music, art, PE activities. So certainly Christine will lead you through more of that through the budget season.
Okay, just keep in mind that the services offered by the Tarrant Institute are free.
Yes, which is very sweet. Exactly.
Tried to get them to come to Heartland a couple years ago, and they were so booked that they weren't available. So we'll try again.
Yeah. And Christine, you and I can talk about that on Thursday, but I did reach out to them and I've got a contact name there. I don't have it with me right now, but you and I can talk about that.
But they seem to me to be pretty open to,
Yeah, this was a few years ago, so they may, and I think it's free, within the contract. When I left out of Queechee, we were bringing in the Tarrant Institute, so I'm a little bit familiar. You trade some of your staff meeting time, your PD time, maybe some professional development money from the staff, I'm not sure, for their services, which is a pretty good deal.
it is a pretty good deal. And also, I would imagine that ARPA funding could cover, or ESSER funding could cover some of that as well.
So we'll put that on our.
No. Okay, Rebecca, I see your hand.
A couple of things. One is I have been hearing a lot about the middle school model, and I'm somewhat familiar with it. And but I don't think the board is really getting a clear picture of what exactly how this is evolving. Yet it sounds like it is evolving, and I just wondered if at some point, Christine, David, we would be able to have something clearer and sooner than about how that's going to, what that's looking like. That's my own impression. I just briefly looked at what you posted, David, and it was helpful, but not totally clear. The second thing I wanted to mention is I know that Sergio Sumanovic, I hope I pronounced his name correct, I know has a vast background in middle school. I'm hoping that he will be part of that conversation as you move forward.
Yeah, he'll be, and not only that, but we have on our administrative team, we have people. Colleen Deschamps has a very rich background in middle level education. Jennifer Aldrich has a very rich background, and so does Sergio. You're absolutely right. But again, Rebecca, in terms of detail, the only major change right now, I'm not sure exactly what you need for detail. The action steps are spelled out there, but I will tell you the biggest piece going forward is that we decoupled the 5-6 teams. We used to have a 5-6 team, and then we had a 7-8 team. And that 7-8 team would then gravitate more toward the high school and again, not, many of them had some middle-level background, but essentially, when we looked at the research and we saw that the research really ran down to sometimes as young as 10, but there was some hesitancy to do that. But we did see that 11 and 12-year-olds really were developmentally starting to grow, especially as the year processed on. So we felt the important thing at this point was to decouple that 5-6, put the 6 with the 7 and 8, and start to move in that direction. I think that's the essential part of the detail right now as far as Windsor is concerned. And then what that'll mean is there'll be some logistical work that will go on. So there's going to be some classrooms that'll move around so that we can get the 6th grade, at least logistically, a little closer to 7 and 8. And we can start to build those programs with advisories and with, some curriculum work and some assemblies. And again, the only dangling participle is that you've got the 6th grade, right? And it's going to be linked with the 5th grade. There will be a 5-6 team at Albert Bridge. And that's the conversation, I think, that we have to have going forward with the Albert Bridge and West Windsor community. And I think that, Christine's prepared and Jennifer's prepared to lead that conversation and see whether or not, it's important to decouple there as well. That's essentially the question. Or are there ways we can bring those activities, those middle level kinds of activities, and to Albert Bridge? That's the essential question.
Well, that was, thank you, David. That was helpful just in spelling it out, that that's what the process is, that you are decoupling groups, and that
That's correct.
You know, one is going in one direction and the other is going in another direction, and the process is breaking down, you know, teachers and other pieces. But that in itself, I think, as a beginning to this presentation is really important, so that people can at least visualize what
Mhm.
exactly is it that's happening. Thank you.
No, that's good. Thanks, Rebecca. And the reason why we don't feel that pressure at Albert Bridge for the upcoming year is that even though we have decoupled 5 and 6, and 6 is going to be, I'm talking about at Windsor now, is going to be, closer in proximity to 7 and 8, and will participate in some of those 7th and 8th grade activities. The bulk and core of their day will still be pretty much self-contained in that 6th grade pod. So there'll be a team of teachers that'll work with that 6th grade, certainly partnering with some of the 7th and 8th graders, but there's not going to be any cross intersection of kids next year. So it'll allow both 5, 6s, it takes a little pressure off of having to make that 6th grade decision, like now. I mean, we've got time to make that decision.
I would just like to register a couple of things. One is that we haven't seen any of the research besides the 2 links that are in the overview that you've shared with us. So when you say this is based on the research, we don't know what that research is. And another comment that I would like to register is that I do strongly object to plans being rolled out that are already completed plans with no input from the board. I don't think that's a very good way to work with the board and get buy-in from board members, because I know that I acknowledging that I am no expert in education whatsoever, but I haven't been given the opportunity to learn about this and inform myself about this. And so I can, and I've told you this on many occasions, but I can, at where I'm sitting right now, I feel like I am being duped because I get a 2-page outline for a plan that is going to be in place. And I object to having our board be discounted from those discussions. Well, Bill, I see your hand. You're listed as William.
I'm listed as William. Oh, good. Yeah, I just want to support what Elizabeth is saying. A simple fact that overwhelmingly the research, someone who is astute at reading educational research, overwhelmingly the research points to 6th graders that join into a middle school system perform lower than 6th graders that are still within an elementary single pod system. And as someone who's taught 6th grade for a couple years, one in an elementary system and one in a middle school system, and the middle school system that I did teach in was similar to how David describes it. We were podded, we were based with these middle school, and we were podded as a 6th grade. And there were benefits and detriments to that system that I think it's worth exploring with other than those people on the committee.
And I also, just to clarify, I'm not against the middle school model. I'm not. I strongly object to having a plan unfurled to a board, the Board of Education, after the plan is seemingly already formulated. And I just think it's a terrible approach, because it's definitely not going to get buy-in from necessarily automatic buy-in from community members. So, and that is crucial. Particularly in West Windsor, where there's the potential of losing some of our students. We haven't had, we're just being presented with. I am serious.
Yeah, no, I know, and this is probably not very healthy for an outgoing superintendent to say, but I would not and have not historically involved school board members into the minutia of middle level curriculum, middle level philosophy. I mean, you hire good administrators, you've got great middle school teachers, you put them together, they look at some of the research, some of what is outlined here, and then they make their decisions as they go forward. And these common themes emerged from a committee of 21 to 25. I don't remember exactly the number, but I think you've been consistent with your concerns, Elizabeth. I think you can a fresh pair of eyes with this board and Christine might help. I've got years and years and years of middle. I think this will ultimately be good for sixth graders. I don't know the research Bill is pointing to, but I've never seen that. But again, this will get rolled out slowly, and Christine and I can talk about how to work with this board, and particularly the West Windsor contingency of this board as we move forward. I think that's really important. I don't want anybody to feel steamrolled, but I also don't want anybody, to kind of micromanage the process either. But
Interested in micromanaging the process. Just let me be clear. But what I am interested in is being part of a process when you're changing the structure, the basic structure of the schools. I mean, that's reasonable for the board to ask to be involved in that discussion. Yeah. I mean, I have zero interest in minutia, but I would like to make informed comments about it, unless you want me to go and find my own resources and to educate myself about it. Then providing resources for us to look at is not unreasonable, actually. Rebecca, I see your hand, and then Bill.
I just want to comment on and raise the point that I think it was 2 years ago, Claremont schools decided to turn, and I don't remember exactly the specifics, but change their school. It was a change that really did not get input from the community. And I'm just going back to Elizabeth's comment about how important community is in being involved in informing themselves and in the decision, not so much maybe in the decision making, but informing themselves. 2 years later, I think this past year, they needed to reverse that decision. And part of the reason that they reversed the decision and went back to the old system was because the community felt, part of it was that there was very little community interaction around this discussion. And David, I don't want to negate what historically you've experienced or seen either, but I do want to say that I recall reading the story and saying, how did that happen? How does the school system just change something without not engaging the public, the board, in making such a big change, and unfortunately then have to change it again a year or two later. So it's just a comment about the importance of community engagement.
And also, when I made my stand on community engagement, talking about how the importance of community participation, but also the importance of informing the community and the board every step of the way, and that this is according to the New York State Board of Education, the worst scenario is to roll out a plan and explain it afterwards and then field questions. And so,
I know Bill wants to go, but I want to respond to this because I think we're talking about two very different things, quite frankly, but I know Bill may want to go first.
go ahead, Bill. You're muted though. We can't hear you.
Of course, I lowered my hand and thought yeah, we are talking about two different things. But I think we're talking about, the things in which we have been very clear about as a board. One, that this had to go out to the public at some point before rolling it forward. And yes, we are talking about curriculum, and it is up to the professionals to develop curriculum. But to take a step back, I'm not the average school board member. And the simple fact that if you haven't heard about the research that I have read, and I've read a lot about it because that's what I do, then you haven't really researched this topic. 6th graders in middle school. You Google that and you're going to get 3 or 4 different articles right off the top, right there. And this is vetted, published research about 6th graders being in a mixed group middle school and 6th graders in podded alone in an elementary model. It's that simple. If you haven't read it, you haven't read the research. That's straightforward.
So let me tell you where I think we're kind of we're and again, I'm outgoing, so you can scrap this on July 1 if you want to. I mean, a lot of work has gone into it, but here's what I'm saying. I've been involved in community discussions where you've got 3 or 4 elementary schools that are K-6, and you're talking about moving those 6th graders out of those elementary schools into those middle schools. That takes an enormous amount of community conversation. That's not what we have in Windsor Southeast. In Windsor Southeast, we have a 6, 7, and 8 middle school already at Wethersfield. We have 6th grade contained in our school system. We're not talking about moving anybody. This is a unique problem to West Windsor, where you have a group of 6th graders that the community needs to have that community dialogue and investigation. I don't know why. I just don't know why. And this would be the last thing I say, because again, we are not talking about a humongous organizational pattern shift here, because in many of our schools already, we've operated in this configuration. And I understand that we would have needed much more community dialogue, much like we'll need at West Windsor as we decide what we want to do with those 6th graders. And that would be the time, I think, to look at maybe Bill's research and whoever's other research. And in the end, if we don't move them over, we don't move them over. I don't think you'll get anybody at Wethersfield to scrap the 6, 7, and 8 model. They use it now. It works. They have, integrated advisories. I don't think you'll necessarily have that happen at Windsor or Heartland either. But I just want to tell you, a lot of time went into this. I'm not talking about the curriculum or the studies about 6th grade. I'm talking about organizationally. The only organizational change that would require kids to come out of one building and go to another is at West Windsor. And it's probably about 4 or 5 kids.
So I'm going to jump in. David, I just want to clarify, this is not an SU meeting, okay? This is a Mount Scottney School Board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the topic. It's not, what's going to happen in Scottney, what's going to happen in Windsor. It's not what's going on in Heartland. It's what's happening in the Mount Scottney School District.
Mm-hmm.
And so the issue that I think Elizabeth has, and the issue that I have, is, granted, we haven't involved the public, but you haven't involved the school board. That's simple. You haven't involved the school board in the discussion.
So, and just to clarify on my part, I'm not, and I have said it already a couple of times, but I am not negating the middle school model. I am in favor of the middle school model. What I am not in favor of is leaving the board in the dark about what the plans are. And it's just not that big of a deal to keep the board informed, is the thing. So I think we should move on. The next thing on well, we already talked about what the plans were for some of our post-graduation plans. We heard that from during the principal's report. Let's hear about the intra-district choice.
So at this point, we have 3 fundamental documents that have been shared with you all. And my feeling is that it's ready to go, to be sent out to families. And I can certainly hold off and just wait until you guys are ready. One question I did have is, do we want paper copy or do we want it to be something like a Google form, which makes it more accessible for some and less accessible for others, or both okay? And my other question was that the information that should probably go directly to the principals, the 2 elementary school principals. So those are my kind of 2 questions that I had left over.
A Google form or electronic form would probably be, I'm sorry, a Google form or electronic form versus paper copy would probably be easier to share between schools. So do you think maybe having a paper
concern
copy?
is that there are some families who aren't so tech
Right.
active.
So I think
Couldn't we
that
do
could be
both?
Okay. All right, and then is it okay for they go to the 2 primary elementary? Those are technically not the 2 primary schools.
Yes.
Okay. No, I think I'll give you guys time to read over. If you have any changes you need to make, you can let Nancy know, who's working with me on this, or you can send them straight to me.
Could we, once this has begun, can you please update us each month on
Requests?
Yep.
Yep, we can do that.
So we can
It's
see.
easy enough.
I'm sure a little bit of Lori Brown as well.
Yes.
Our school police.
Yeah, okay. That's it, thank you. We've had multiple people help out, but Nancy's been a great help. Bill's been in there giving feedback, and a couple of community members who've really just been able to kind of jump in and give feedback to, so it's been really helpful from both communities. Thank you all for the work on that.
Okay. And then we have a retreat. I think we were just going to talk about when. And last year we welcomed Davis McGraw to our midst during our August retreat. How does early August sound for, I don't know when people, if we have our retreat in July, then we will have August to sort of decompress from and process some of the decisions that we make at the retreat, instead of having to kind of jump past implementing anything or seeing anything actualized. Does that make sense? Before the beginning of the school year. So my vote would be for a late July retreat, but I'm only one vote. Does anybody else have any?
Late
July? Nancy Pedrick?
I like that, late July.
Okay. is there any among us, or are there any among us who will absolutely be gone in late July?
I think it depends on when in late July. I'm out of town from the 20th through the 23rd. So yeah, 20th through the 22nd are weekdays.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to get everybody.
Right.
I will be on an island in the middle of Lake Champlain, but I will have internet. So
Okay. Lucky you.
I know.
I know. I want to have internet on an island in the middle of Lake Champlain.
well, it's my sister's place.
We'll all come.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a retreat.
Sure.
Bill's sister's
Butler
place.
Islands, 10 acres, got a bathroom, nice cabin.
Well, let's try to just do it the last week of July, if that would be okay with everybody. Okay. Amy, how are you fixed for late July?
I have no idea.
All right, I'll ask Laurie to send out a doodle poll about it.
The week of the
Wait,
25th.
when are you gone?
We have our retreat the week before that, and then we have BPA the first week of August, so that week's open.
Okay.
The week of the 25th.
Yeah. Okay, and then teacher retention we also talked about already.
And I can add the ABS ones if you want.
Oh, yeah.
For those who have left this year, we had one leave due to the stress of the job, one leave due to better paying someplace else, one leave because of relocating closer to home.
These are all teachers?
So this is for this year. No, I'd say, let's see. 1, 2, 3 are not teachers. One is a teacher.
One left because of stress of the job. Already left.
Yep. Yeah, so this is the year's data.
Yep. Can you repeat the rest of those?
So one left because they got better paid someplace else.
Okay.
And then 2 have left because they're relocating closer to where they live. Or relocating their job closer to where they live.
That's a lot of people from Oak Bridge. Sorry.
It's okay. Because we've got amazing people coming in too. And, you know, one door closes, another door opens, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I know I've said this before, but I mentioned to Christine that we have what's the bill number? Number one, let me remind everybody that legislatively speaking, H293, which is the creation of the State Youth Council, got signed into law by the governor. It'll be a student youth council that is for ages 11 to 18. Yeah, 28 people will be starting in November, and committees will be concerning youth voice, education, equity and anti-racism, and climate change and mental health. And they will have statewide hearings, and they will have they will advise the governor and the government operations committees of the House and Senate. And what was the other one that there was a miscellaneous education. There were 2 miscellaneous education bills. One of them was really miscellaneous, but one of the precepts was, H716 delayed was the bill that delayed the implementation of the Act 173, the special ed block grant project. But it also, what makes it miscellaneous is that it studies and requires Holocaust education statewide. So be aware of that. And another S273, the other miscellaneous education bill, encodes in law no suspensions or expulsions for children under 8. And it also requires the provision of alternative services for students who are suspended. And finally,
Elizabeth, is that in school and out of school suspensions, or?
Student is during the education day. So is that what you mean? So if they're, even if they're not on school grounds, even if they're on the bus or on a field trip or wherever, is that what you mean by?
No, you have, there's 2 levels of suspension for state reporting, and you have in-school suspension and you have out-of-school suspension.
So alternative services must be provided to students who are suspended. So both in school and out of school. And so the one that I was just, the reason that I brought these up was because of your reporting about the Albert Bridge staff. Because S197 was the mental health supports bill, and it provides for mental health supports for students and educators. And it's got ample funding for people across our state. It should dovetail with our telehealth, as particularly mental health, telehealth laws that we also passed this year. So filling in some of the gaps for mental health professionals in our state. We can also, we provided for the use of mental health, or the licensure of mental health professionals outside of our state for the purposes of telehealth, where it's necessary. So, so if you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'd be glad to follow up. I'm sorry if I have been inarticulate. And besides that, for our next agenda, nope, we have an action, and that is the FY23 credit. And Amy's holding up the form.
Yes, so Elizabeth and I, who are here, we signed it. It will be at the SU office.
It needs to be signed by everybody else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lori said she would email people that weren't here in person.
Okay.
To come in.
Okay.
I'll sign it.
But we don't need to vote on it, do we?
No.
Yeah, so please stop by the SU office and sign the 4 places that need to be signed for the extension of credit for the fiscal year of 2023.
I didn't see that, Amy, but is that a line of credit with a bank, basically?
Correct.
What does it say at the top?
It says governmental certificate, and it's the short-term loan that happens in between
It's anticipated.
the fiscal year paid in taxes.
Yeah. It's a tax anticipation note. So what the bank, I just wanted to interrupt because the bank will want to see a motion from this board that approves the tax anticipation note in the amount of, and that signature page that Amy's holding, along with a copy of the minutes where that was voted on, will go to the bank, and that will instigate the tax anticipation note. I just want to make sure we do that.
I move that we accept whatever.
Yeah, the tax anticipating note in the amount of, is there an amount on that, Amy?
There is $2,430,946.02.
Okay, good. In that amount,
I second.
good.
Take
We have
a
23-year.
Tax anticipation short-term loan in the amount of $2,430,946.02.
It was already done.
It was already, Nancy,
Was it you, Nancy?
Yeah.
Yes,
Amy,
and
yeah.
Rebecca.
okay, on the line. Okay. Amy, how do you vote? Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bill, how do you vote?
First, I want to say thank you to David for remembering that, because we do it every year. Yeah. Aye.
And Rebecca, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
I am an aye. This has passed unanimously. Okay, now the next agenda is for our our retreat, which will be the last week of July, if we're lucky. Does anybody have any suggestions that they'd like to make as a topic for our, Rebecca, I see your hand.
Student voice. We've been talking about including student voice in our on our board, and that hasn't happened yet. So how do we go forward with that?
Yep, I have ideas about that actually. Okay.
And there is a significant amount of resources from Vermont School Board Association.
Oh, great. Okay. And anybody else have anything, any like broadish topics that they'd like to discuss pertaining specifically to our district?
I'd like to at least touch base on PK again.
On what?
Pre-K, sorry. Pre-kindergarten, the technical words. I talk in state code, so.
I should also add that one of those miscellaneous education laws has provisions for a universal calendar, statewide universal school calendar.
Here we go again.
To that, and they're also looking into a universal kindergarten entrance. So, sorry. Nancy, did you have a topic that you'd like to bring?
Yes, I wonder if we should discuss middle school, 6th grade specifically, and maybe Bill could help us with some readings so we could, we could educate ourselves. Even though I taught middle school for a long time, and we did separate this 6th grade finally into its own little pod.
Davis, do you have something that you'd like to? You don't have to, I'm kind of putting everybody on the spot. If you have something that you've wanted to talk about for a long time.
I mean, we're pretty engaged in the conversation already with the work with Mary Gannon, but I think if we incorporated, touched upon the equity work that we're doing at that retreat, that would be beneficial.
Okay. Amy, do you have something that you'd like to?
I think the student voice
Okay,
And if we are, I think the middle school needs to be a completely separate meeting. But having student voice. And finally, coming to some decision, we came so close and then COVID happened. And it would be great to figure out how to move on with the plans that we had in place.
okay. And also, that reminds me that we were invited, we all received an invitation from the Windsor Jedi Committee to participate in a panel on June 23rd. And so if you're of the mind, I think it would be great if we had a good showing from our board. I will definitely be there. See a couple of others nodding their heads. Yes, Nancy. You're muted. You're still muted. Okay, I'm trying to read your lips, but I can't. Oh, now she's gone. There, still muted. Do you have the ability to unmute Nancy by any chance?
You know, I can't do it on my end, but hold on. Let me see. While Nancy's trying to get unmuted, I just want to confirm that date. It is the 23rd with that Jedi group. Is that what everybody has? Okay. What time is that?
It's usually at 6. I think they meet at 6.
Okay. Somehow it didn't make it to my calendar, but Christine, do you have that in your calendar?
Not yet. Where do they meet?
They meet at the Windsor Welcoming Center. But I think you can also.
You can come in virtually though, too, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Davis, what would you like to say about the Jedi? It is, purpose of the panel is as part of Pride Month. So.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I knew that it was a tie-in with Pride Month. I just wasn't sure if there was any more detail on the exact subject matter of the panel. But you read my mind on that question.
I will forward the email to everybody again, but I believe we were all already invited, and I'll try to send the participation information at the same time. So the 23rd at 6. It's coming right up.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No.
We can. Yes. We can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that was what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I didn't think I got an invitation, so I just wanted you to forward it again, and you are. So thanks.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I think the reason it wasn't in my calendar and it's probably not in Christine's is because we have the conflict. I think the Heartland retreat is that night on the 23rd. Is that true, Christine?
4:30. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So maybe somehow we could jump on after that if we have time. But I do think a good showing from this board. I agree with Elizabeth. That would be to have a good showing from this board.
Yep. All right. Well, I will. As soon as I hang up from this, I will resend the invitation. And with that, I think we are done for the evening. So I will I'm going to shortcut the vote on logging off, and I'll take a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, and Nancy seconds, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.